Welcome back inside Uplift Property Management. I'm Tommy Perfect, owner and broker here at Uplift. And today I want to give you 7 tips on how to self-manage your property like a pro. Now, I know that not everybody's going to be a client here at Uplift, and a lot of you guys that might watch this video might want a quick tip on how to self-manage your property if that's something that you're so inclined to do. I would always give the caveat of, hey, give us a call. Advice is always free. And so that's why I'm going to make this video. So first off, step number 1 is know the laws and regulations. California makes it so difficult for us to know what is going on, and it really is almost a quarter-to-quarter basis that something is changing. And if you aren't able to stay up on those laws, you might find yourself in a real pickle. Just recently, I had a conversation with a vendor that we use, and he had a property that he was renting out himself, and he forgot to do a disclosure for AB 1482, the California Tenant Protection Ordinance. And his property wasn't even included in it, but he needed to have an exemption notice. And because he forgot that exemption notice when he went to sell that property, his tenant actually was there asking for a monetary settlement because he had failed to comply with that regulation, and my vendor friend ended up having to pay that out. So really knowing the laws and regulations really will put money in your pocket. It's just if you have the time to keep up and follow along with the ever-changing legal landscape of California. Some of those main points that I would highly recommend outside of just the legal side of things is habitability regulations and knowing your timelines for when you give people notice. If you do give notice, what those requirements are about timelines, but also just cause. And if you are required to have a just cause, or if you have a no-fault just cause, or if you're really out of compliance with Landlord Tenant Protection Act. Step 2 is set up clear, and I would say very clearly written lease agreements or rental agreements. Use a compliant template. You can get one off of the internet or go to the California Department of Real Estate or talk to a local realtor, and they might be able to help you with a California compliant form. Outline those expectations with your tenant very early on, and really start at the application phase and whatever you're advertising, making sure that you're not having any bait and switch going on. And then make sure that you're very clear on the fee schedule, so what that monthly rent would look like, but also if there's any additional fees and utilities or application fees that tenant's responsible for, make sure that you're disclosing those early and really in that application or in that listing process, so that any applicant knows exactly what they're getting into, and you can keep yourself safe from any bait and switch or non-compliant actions that a tenant might be able to take advantage of you on. Here at Uplift, we really pride ourselves on our lease and the strength of our lease and how landlord friendly we are able to make our lease, and we do everything we possibly can to make sure that stays in the landlord's favor while a lot of the legislation goes in the tenant's favor. I know it's a hard thing to do here in California, but we do our best, and we run that past our legal team every year to make sure that you're compliant and that your property is well managed. Step 3 is marketing your property effectively. This is taking high quality photos. Try to just avoid taking photos with your cell phone and then slapping them up on your Zillow listing. Write clear, honest descriptions that really depict exactly what the property is, and make sure you're avoiding some of those terms that might get you into fair housing trouble. But make sure that you're avoiding things like, oh, this is a family-friendly community, or other issues that might prioritize or disincentivize families for being there, or other protected classes. And then make sure that you're listing on multiple listing platforms, not just one. So if you're just trying to do it yourself and you throw it on Facebook, that's only one little way of getting it, and you can also expand that into posting into community groups. But you should definitely be looking at Zillow and Zumper and Trulia and apartments.com. All of these places have different traffic, and you want to make sure that you're maximizing and capturing at least the top 4 listing sites to make sure that your listing is actually seen by qualified renters. Again, when you market those, make sure that you have a clear path to get in contact with you so that you can follow up effectively with them. Once you have a contact, you're gonna have to screen that tenant really well. And this is gonna save you so many headaches in the long run. You're checking their credit, you're checking their employment history, you're trying to get a hold of their previous landlord if they're gonna give you an honest review of that tenant. That can be really invaluable for knowing if a tenant was really qualified for your home and if they were going to treat it well. If you call their previous landlord and they say, yeah, they skipped out on the last 2 months of rent and they had a dog that I didn't know about, and that dog destroyed the 3rd bedroom because they just kept it locked in there all the time, you know that might be a really hard thing to deal with as a landlord, because you're probably going to have damage to your house. So make sure that you, again, have your qualifications very clearly marketed, and then screen according to those qualification standards. Step 5, you're going to want to give an easy way for tenants to pay rent. That way you're not going to spend time chasing your tenant down every month trying to get that rent collection, hearing every sob story that they have about their great grandmother that passed away and now they have to fly to New York to deal with that funeral costs and I got sick or I missed work or whatever it is. Give them an easy way for them to pay rent as opposed to an easy way for them to give you an excuse. So one of that is provide an online payment method. There are several property management platforms that for an individual owner that have free versions or very limited versions that have a way for a tenant to pay online. I highly recommend using one of those options. You can find one of those by doing a quick ChatGPT search or Google search. I'm sure you can find something that would do really well for you. Again, set firm due dates. Don't go past those due dates ever. Don't make one-time exceptions for people because that one time is going to turn into 2 times, going to turn into every month that you're chasing down rent or whatever other outstanding amount is due. So be clear and then also enforce your late fees. If you want to give them one late fee waived per year, I know we do that here at Uplift, but if you're giving them a waiver and letting them pay late every month, you're actually getting into a spot where you're creating an implied contract with them that their due date for their rent has changed, even though your written contract says something different. So make sure you keep yourself safe should anything bad come up and you end up having to do an unlawful detainer. Step 6 is to stay on top of maintenance. This is one of the best ways to elongate the lifespan of a tenant in your unit. And that's gonna in turn give you the most dollars in your pocket by reducing those vacancy expenses and the really high maintenance expenses when the property is vacant. And so respond to those repairs really quickly. Make sure that you're available to get those done. This isn't something where it's, oh yeah, the water heater went out and I'm gonna get to it when I come down, in 10 days for a trip. I'm gonna replace that water heater myself and save myself $300. No, get out there, do the water heater, do it the next day so that your tenant knows that you care about the property as much as your tenant does because it's their home, and make sure that you're on top of that and doing quality repairs. Try not to inconvenience your tenants too much by having to send vendors back out over and over again. Make sure that they can get in there, get the job done right, and do it for a value price. I know we really pride ourselves on having our value vendors here at Uplift Property Management, so they're not always the cheapest. I know they're not the most expensive either, but they do provide a really good value to you as the landlord. Again, if you ever have a question on what vendor you should use, I would be happy to refer any of my vendors out that we use here to help you on your property. Again, I would also push you to save for larger expenses. So save for those capital improvements, save for the water heater, the HVAC unit, save for the roof, save for the exterior paint, save for these things because they are going to help you keep the value of your property and prevent you from having the stress of a big expense coming through. Set that money aside, maybe set up a separate bank account for yourself so that it's not part of your regular cash flow. Set it aside, leave it there. It's going to be there for a rainy day because I guarantee you're going to have an expense that's thousands and thousands of dollars at some point. So be ready for that when it comes and don't let it hurt your personal life in that moment. The last step for me and last tip is keep really good records. Communication logs are really effective. The first thing that I get when I have a tenant that sues for some issue, the sky was too blue or the grass wasn't green enough, they are first going to ask for all of the communication logs. So if you have a way that you are communicating, maybe that's you created a separate email that you do all of your communications for. You have your phone that you're texting them on. But what you really want to avoid is having only phone calls that you're dealing with. You want to make sure that you keep records of those communications. So if you do have a phone call, document it after the fact. Send them an email follow-up saying, hey, here's what we talked about. I'm going to get this done. Here are the to-dos, right? Keep track of those maintenance things that you do. It will come into play if you ever have a legal issue or have to do an eviction or have a tenant suing you at some point. This will save you tens of thousands of dollars. And I know that your insurance company will definitely appreciate it and it'll save you on your loss runs as well. Again, this is Uplift's way of doing things. And I know that you can manage your property yourself if you really have the time and energy and focus to do so. However, if you would like a professional to do that you can trust, give us a call here at Uplift Property Management and we would be happy to review your account and see if you're a right fit for our services. Thanks and hope to hear from you soon.